Hey, folks, welcome to the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network podcast. I'm your host, Louis Carlin. We're right here on the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network. And I want to thank everybody that's been listening to the podcast. Very appreciative. Glad you could join me again today. And everyone that has subscribed to our YouTube channel, I want to give a big thank you to you guys. Thank you very much. We're five away from 400. My goal was to get to 400 by the end of next week. I hope I could get there. I am pretty confident that we can here at the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network. And I want to thank each and every one of you who has subscribed to the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network YouTube channel. Thank you very much. And I want to give a shout out to our newest subscriber, James Tierney Hines. James Tierney Hines, thank you very much for subscribing to the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network podcast on our YouTube channel, I should say. Again, thank you very much, James Tierney Hines. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And if you're watching for the first time and you're enjoying what you're seeing, check out the other content and please consider hitting that subscribe button. All right, so let's get into it. Samoa Joe. There's more news on Samoa Joe's possible WWE return. So this is PW Mania reporting. It says Samoa Joe was reportedly at the WWE Performance Center this week. As reported earlier, it was revealed on Friday that WWE NXT officials want to bring Joe back to the brand as an in-ring competitor. Joe has been working the Raw announce team for several months and was released from his WWE contract in mid-April with other budget cuts. But lately, there's been a push to bring Joe back to the company to wrestle for NXT. And Joe's not the only one. Samoa Joe's Aleister Black. WWE seems to be interested in bringing Aleister Black back to the WWE. So here's my question. Why release them in the first place? What's the point of releasing them in the first? Okay, you say there's budget cuts. Okay, but 90-day non-compete clause, if I'm not mistaken, they're still getting paid during that 90-day non-compete clause. So if you want to use Samoa Joe for NXT, and if you want to bring Aleister Black back into the WWE, why release them in the first place? Doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Why release someone and then want to bring them back? I know, there was a bunch of releases. Drake Maverick was released. I think this was last year at the beginning of the pandemic. There was a bunch of releases, and Drake Maverick was released. But that was a storyline release, and it worked out where he said his big goodbyes, and then Triple H came out, and Drake Maverick's crying, and Triple H came out, gave him a contract for NXT, and he signed it. He stayed. So, but why? Like if you were going to release somebody, if you want somebody to stay in the company, why release them to begin with? I mean, this is not a storyline. I told the Drake Maverick story of this quickly because it was a storyline release, and he came back and blah blah blah. But these Samoa Joe, Aleister Black, not a storyline. They were actually released. And now they want to bring them back into the WWE. Why release them? It doesn't make any sense. And it says Samoa Joe was at the Performance Center, reportedly at the Performance Center this week. Why he was there, I don't know why he was there, if he was there at all. It says some more. While talent in NXT are heavily speculating on a return for Joe, some also believe it's really going to happen. It should be noted that there is no indication as of Friday that a deal has been made. According to the report, it has been reported that people within the WWE are pushing for some of the recently released superstars to be brought back into the company, and Joe is one of those wrestlers. Aleister Black, as I mentioned, was another one of those wrestlers. Again, it makes no sense to me. I mean, if I was Samoa Joe, if I was Aleister Black, I wouldn't want to sign. Look, you released me, okay? You released me outright. I especially Aleister Black, because they weren't using Aleister Black to his fullest potential. They were screwing around with Aleister Black. If that was Aleister Black, I wouldn't want to resign. I wouldn't want to go back to the WWE. And it doesn't look like he's going back. It looks like he's has his sights set on AEW, signing with AEW and Tony Khan, and I think he'll be great there. And but let's focus. The story's on Samoa Joe. So let's focus on Samoa Joe. And he was doing commentary. Wasn't wrestling. I mean, if they didn't want him to do commentary anymore instead of just releasing him outright, like I said, why just to say, you know what, so you know what, Joe, we want you to, why don't we send you to NXT, and we're not going to release you. We'll just send you to NXT, and you can be an in-ring performer there. Would have he accepted it? I don't know. He might have. I mean, anything's better than being released, right? Anything's better than being released. I mean, granted, I have been told that they do get paid during this 90-day compete. I don't know how much they get paid, but if you want Samoa Joe in NXT, like I'm gonna say it again, why the hell would you release him in the first place? It doesn't make sense. You know, WWE, they do everything ass backwards. Are they saving money? You know, I knew that there were budget cuts, but are they really saving money? You know, like how much are they going to pay him in NXT compared to the 90-day non compete that they're paying him? So is there is there a huge difference there? You know, I don't know the numbers, but it it's quite. I think it's silly. I think it's quite silly, to be honest. Again, if I was Samoa Joe, I would say no. You know, I mean, Josh Alexander in Impact Wrestling, the X Division champion, would love a match with Samoa Joe, and I think Samoa Joe would be a great addition to Impact Wrestling. You know, for him to show up at Slammiversary and get in Josh Alexander's face and have them battle for the X Division championship. I think that would be fantastic. Does he want to go to NXT? You know, I mean, he was up on the main roster. Does he want to go to NXT and be an in-ring performer? And NXT, I mean, does he feel that maybe he's a little he's past NXT and he deserves to be on a main roster? I mean, there's New Japan Pro Wrestling, there's AEW. I mentioned Impact Wrestling. You know, granted, NXT is a great promotion. It's got a lot of talent, but does he want to go back? Would it be like taking a step backwards for Samoa Joe to go to back to NXT to be in-ring performer? Does he feel that way? That's some things you gotta consider. But bottom line, WWE, just I don't know what to do, man. I don't know why. Yeah, it's like me getting fired from my job. It's like me getting fired. It's like, Lewis, we can't use you anymore, so we're gonna have to let you go. All right, and then I have 5 days later they say, yeah, hey, Lewis, hey, you want to come back? Lewis, you want to come back to the company? Because like, okay, you just fired me 5 days ago, but then you said that you couldn't use me anymore. But now 5 days later, you want me to come back? I mean, but you want me to work instead of being a regular driver, you want me to be a junior driver? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, that's what's going on right now. There's Samoa Joe's possible WWE return. Personally, if I was Samoa Joe, I wouldn't want to go back to the WWE. I'd want to. There's plenty of other options out there, but it's up to Samoa Joe, and we'll see what happens. I mean, if he wants to go back to the WWE, he doesn't have to wait for his non-compete to expire, which is July 14th. I'm sure he could go back immediately. But we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see if there are any more developments, and if there are, I'll be sure to report on it. All right, so let's move on. Tony Khan has responded to Triple H's comments. Fightful.com's Tony Khan responds to Triple H, who says there are people. Tony Khan says to Triple H, there are people in the AEW who have no interest in working in the WWE. He's referring to Triple H saying that the best female performers in the world are in the WWE, and if they are not, they want to be. Tony Khan. Well, Thunder Rosa actually shot back at that. I discussed that on a past podcast. But Tony Khan weighed in, and he said, I'll read the whole thing. It's not that long. He says, I think we already had, in my opinion, the best roster in wrestling. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Everyone is building their own roster and are going to have good feelings about the people they work with. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying you think you have the best show or company. I agree. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Where people got offended yesterday is when Triple H said everyone wants to work there. I agree again. Not everyone wants to work in the WWE. It says people are confusing the two things. If you want to say I think my show and product is the best, there's nothing wrong with that. You should feel that way. Again, I agree with Tony Khan there. When you say anyone of any value wants to work there, that's not true. Again, I agree with Tony Khan. It's crazy. It is crazy. There are plenty of people who work for AEW that have no interest in working for the WWE. Britt Baker made it pretty clear yesterday with what she tweeted, and she tweeted out a picture of her with Thunder Rosa, indicating that she stands with Thunder Rosa, and she has no interest in working for the WWE. So yes, I agree with Tony Khan. He's 100% right. Triple H, again, with Triple H, if you want to think the WWE, the product that the company that you work for, if you want to think that it's the best company in the world, you have the best performance, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, but if you say everyone who's not in the WWE wants to be there, that's where you made the mistake. That's where you made the mistake. Not everybody wants to be in the WWE. Kazuchika Okada doesn't want to work for the WWE. Kota Ibushi had an opportunity to work for the WWE, didn't want to work for the WWE back in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Deonna Purrazzo doesn't want to work for the WWE, and she's one of the best women wrestlers in the world. Britt Baker, as I said, Thunder Rosa, they don't want to work for the WWE. Kenny Omega had the opportunity. He was offered a contract. He chose not to work for the WWE. Doesn't want to work for the Young Bucks. Same thing. They had a huge contract offer from the WWE, but they chose not to work for the WWE. Granted, Triple H's comments were referring to women. But I think when he said the best female performers in the world are in the WWE, and if they are not, they want to be. He was referring to female wrestlers, but I think it was also him subtly saying that not just female performers, any performer in the world would want to work for the WWE. That's why I'm including male performers. But not everybody wants to work for the WWE. WWE is not the be all end all of professional wrestling anymore. A lot of people want to get out. A lot of people that work for the WWE actually want to get out of the WWE. They don't want to work there anymore. I mean, look like some examples. Andrade was with the WWE. Didn't want to work there anymore. He's no longer with the WWE. He doesn't want to work for the WWE. He wants to work for AEW. I mentioned Deonna Purrazzo. She had her shot in the WWE, and they basically they didn't know what to do with her. They didn't realize what they had. She left. She has no interest in working with it for the WWE anymore. Jordynne Grace could have signed with any promotion, and she chose Impact Wrestling. You know, it was. I read a few reports that it was rumored that she did have offers from the WWE. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. That's just a rumor. Again, I don't know if that's confirmed, but she chose to work for the WWE. She said that her dream is to work for the WWE if the situation is right. So, but she chose Impact Wrestling, not the WWE. So there are plenty of people. You go to look at Stardom. There are so many. Mayu Iwatani, one of the top women wrestlers in the world, wrestling for Stardom, not interested in working with the WWE as far as I know. She has never expressed interest. So there are a lot of wrestlers, performers out there that don't want to be in the WWE. And I'm glad Tony Khan had pointed that out. Speaking of the WWE, there's a match that the fans want. You know, it's Bobby Lashley against Brock Lesnar. Well, Bobby Lashley went back to the WWE. It was with the intentions that he was going to have a match with Brock Lesnar. Bobby Lashley, now the WWE champion, up until this point has not had a match with Brock Lesnar. You know, he's called for it. You know, the fans have been requesting it. The fans want it, but it just hasn't happened. So Bobby Lashley said the time is now for his match with Brock Lesnar to happen. It was ringside news. He says WWE champion Bobby Lashley is one of the most legitimate athletes to have competed in the world of both MMA and pro wrestling. For a long time, Lashley has made it clear that he wants to face off against Brock Lesnar. For a very long time, fans have wanted nothing more than a match between Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar. It seems Lashley has not given up on facing Lesnar because the WWE is not giving Bobby Lashley that match. I don't know, maybe Brock Lesnar doesn't want the match, but Bobby Lashley really wants the match. So while speaking to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Bobby Lashley talked about the possibility of facing Brock Lesnar. Bobby Lashley said that every time Lesnar came back, it was to get a major championship. Um, and Bobby Lashley's quote was, and anytime he came back, it was to get the title. And every other champ he's been in the ring with, except me. So if he ever wants the title back, instead of doing whatever he's doing, the time is now. The math is right. It's not like I'm running for him. Says while Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar would certainly be a dream match, the WWE doesn't see it that way, and the company is not even planning for the match. This is what's wrong with the WWE. They're not giving the fans what they want. This is why Andrade wanted to leave. This is why Aleister Black, I'm glad he's happy that he's gone. There's so many other wrestlers out there that are happy that they're no longer with the WWE because the WWE just doesn't give the fans what they want. All they're looking for is ratings, in my opinion. I don't really watch the WWE anymore. I've kind of given up on it a long time. I'll read up on results occasionally. If SmackDown or Raw is on, I'll watch it for a few minutes, but I can't really ever watch it. But they're not interested in giving the fans what they want. If they don't think Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar is going to get pay-per-view buys, which it's going to, or if it's going to get ratings, then they're not going to do it. Right? Vince McMahon is, if he puts his foot down on something, he's not going to do it. But this is what the fans want. The fans want Bobby. It would be I would probably want to see that match. Bobby Lashley against Brock Lesnar. Bobby Lashley specifically came back to the WWE. I remember reading the articles, the reports, to face Brock Lesnar. And that is a dream match that the fans want. But the WWE has no plans for that match, which is an absolute travesty, in my opinion. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much for listening to me today. I'm Lewis Carlin. This is the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network podcast. And until next time, thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye. And stay safe, everyone. So long. Bye-bye.